Nixie. She had always wanted him, had been waiting for him. She came to him in his dreams, tattooed her map on his palm, set desire exploding within him like a sabotaged flight. She wanted him out of lust, intrigue, or some long-forgotten betrayal. She had not wanted him. He had seen her, plunged into her pool. He had not seen her, had slipped in from the mossy bank. She reached out and pulled him in. Now she has him. She plans to keep him forever. Lake Erie. All summer long, a ferry crossed the lake from Buffalo to Crystal Beach and back again. Dad stood beside me at the rail, explaining the geology of the region, how the lakes were formed by glaciers. My grandfather, my father's father, had been dead for years. I imagined him going down with his ship, no life jacket, in a late winter storm. Kids have their own way of making sense of things. Later, I learned the truth of the matter, how the maid of the mist beckons as you near Niagara Falls. On his leave from a job aboard a freighter, he put his 12 children to bed, and in that quiet house, he ran aground. It was the storm in his heart that did him in. 12 children were not enough. Under him, his wife, my grandmother, tossed like waves on the lake, her voice calling to him out of the whirlpool. Exhausted, he clung to her, heedless, as if they were young. The white goddess sang to him. Zillions of stars flashed in his head. Glass Mountain. This storm is not a dream, but when I close my eyes, my body rises, shudders, and falls with each new wave. Green and massive waves rise up unwilling to lie down. The waves are not an army, though they seem to march. The waves are not a wheel, though they keep rolling up and over. If the wind notices our small white sails, we are a pebble in its road, a snag in its long silk stocking. The storm moves like the god the ancients knew it was. Now there is no question of navigation, only this moment by moment breathing, praying we won't be caught where water yields to wind in a white crash of chaos and foam. We are like climbers in a dream. We cling to one another while mountains rise beneath us, then fall away into the void. When my mother died, I went home. Her fragrance floated from closets, drifted from drawers. I put her ring on my finger, wrapped myself in her scarf. I packed the silverware she left me, a ceramic rooster, my father's paintings, loaded a truck with furniture that's followed me from childhood. We called Goodwill, sold her home, but not to strangers, gave her mysteries to friends. We divided the photographs. I slept in her bed. Her vases perch on my bookshelves, a hummingbird, some daisies, a blue violin. One handful of ashes I gave to the wind, the other I kept for myself. Each morning I rise in the body she made me. I carry my keys in her handbag. I walk in the shoes that she loved. Elegy with backward clocks. The clocks have fallen back. The white clock ticking on the kitchen wall, the antique clock in the living room. They've fallen back as leaves fall, as darkness falls earlier each night. The bedside alarm with its shrill voice and luminous face the pocket watch, the cuckoo clock with raucous bird and Bavarian dancers. After the fiction of saving daylight, we've returned to facts. Once we rose with the sun, marked time by its shifting shadow. Now we have clocks. Now we have months instead of moons. We've abandoned the fantasy that we could save some of the daylight, even an hour of it, that we could live our evenings in the light of the past, borrow light from the past to postpone for a while the coming of darkness. These autumn days would last forever if we called them by another name. This next poem has an epigraph from Gerard Manley Hopkins. And yet you will weep and know why. Golden Grove. The lesson for today is grief. I write the word I before E on the board. One of the children's fathers has died. I went to the funeral, watched her follow the casket, crying for him, enclosed in that heavy box, carried away. Now her classmates write about grief. They bow to the task, like young trees in a strong wind, grip pencils that are mightier than swords. After the last sentence, they look up, as if they've come back from far away. The room is quiet. No one fidgets or laughs as they stand one by one to read with quivering voices through tears their stories of divorced parents, lost dogs, and the grandmothers they loved. Why things are the way they are. The universe was created by two gods. One constructed big things, galaxies and skyscrapers, Walt Whitman and the great blue whale. The other fashioned all things small, atoms, field mice, thimbles, and what's left of Sappho's poems. They couldn't agree on anything, not even math. When they tried to work together, they wound up with black holes. Chaos is normal, we say, never surprised by dirty dishes in the sink, toys scattered across the floor. It's order that demands an explanation. Surrounded by dark matter, we tell our children legends about a dark Lord. I think for a girl who lives in Taliban territory, the word bullet might be like the word bomb at an airport, or the word fire in a crowded theater. Her education. Into the quiet classroom of the mind comes flying the furious teacher with a lesson of fear. This bullet is not a bullet. It's merely a word, something the mouth makes for the delicate ear, something the breath sends that troubles the air, a ballet of sound moving through silence that explodes in an image as sudden as death. Where is the wound? It bleeds in the minds of a million grief-stricken girls. They will be pilots, doctors, warriors, poets. They will sit on the ground in the dust just to learn. In the 21st century, every girl is Malala. What would Jesus teach? When Jesus arrives at Colbert Elementary, the most recent in a long line of substitute teachers, no one recognizes him despite the long hair, Birkenstock sandals, and "What would Jesus do" t-shirt. Though he doesn't look it, he's been teaching for 2,000 years. He speaks Aramaic and everyone understands. Jesus is here undercover, so he avoids flashy miracles like multiplying fish sticks in the cafeteria. When no one is looking, he revives the goldfish floating belly up in the aquarium. Jesus puzzles over the pledge to the flag, one nation under God, as if God were something to be under, an invisible plastic dome, instead of something to be inside of, a vast, mysterious universe. He studies the map on the classroom wall and erases all the national borders, all the words for cities and mountains and lakes, so the world looks like it did before Adam got busy naming things. And now a child can see how all the oceans are one ocean, and all the continents are pieces of a gigantic jigsaw puzzle. Jesus sings songs about the Big Bang and the wonders of evolution. In the beginning, he says, is the Word, and sometimes the word is popcorn. Sometimes it's sneeze or lullaby. Jesus finds the lever, the button, the hidden switch inside each child, turns their curiosity on, waits for them to start asking questions. When the fire alarm sounds and everyone tumbles outdoors, he rearranges the clouds like fluffy cartoons on the blue screen of the sky. Although he performs with ease the minor miracle of keeping a class of 5-year-olds clean, quiet, and busy, he prefers the happier magic of finger paint, rhythm band, and an afternoon nap. The end of the school day finds him in kindergarten, cross-legged on a carpet, reading Harold and the Purple Crayon. Good night, moon. This poem feels almost subversive to be reading in the library. Steal this book. Shalanda has been caught in the act. We've had theft before: money, jewelry, tiny toys that slip into a pocket, candy. I'm glad she loves books. What can I say? Steal the fire. May it burn brightly in your imagination. Steal the apple. May it always be sweet. Steal the giant's gold from his fortress in the clouds. Take it home to your grandmother's house. This next poem is a little bit like a riddle, but the answer is given at the end of the poem. News photo. It looks like a day at a playground. An invitation for adventurous children to climb over, around, and through. And the little girl with dark curls is halfway through, balanced on all fours, her hands in one world, her feet in another. An autumn field where wild brambles have discarded their leaves and berries, and now only thorns remain. So the man behind her, who must be her father, grasps her legs to guide her over the barbed wire. Section B, page 6. No news is good news, or so it was for the horseshoe crab, 450 million years while the dinosaurs came and then went. Now they're making the news. How we use them as bait, grind them up for fertilizer, destroy their habitat. But their ancient blood detects endotoxins, makes possible our flu shots, pacemakers, and hip joint replacements. We are the aliens, newly arrived on Earth with our gleaming technology, capturing them for our laboratories where white-coated technicians drain that precious blue blood. Returned to the ocean, some survive the encounter. There is a mystery in their mating, something essential in the sand. We don't know what it is nor how they know it's there. He comes ashore at high tide when the moon is full and waits for her, clings to her while she lays her many eggs. The ocean and the moonlight are one. The ocean and the moonlight and the horseshoe crabs are one. They are Aphrodite's children, spawned at the dawn of our world when the goddess of love rose naked from foam on the sea. All the lines in this next poem were lifted from a Sun Sentinel News story. How the ostrich became Florida's state bird. The next generation will survive despite us. Space shuttles will still fly into orbit. But what is the plan? Build a seawall around South Florida. Space shuttles will fly into orbit, delivering warnings and vacation orders. We'll build a seawall around all of Florida because America's oldest city is drowning. Will deliver warnings and evacuation orders. There's an uptick in the number of powerful storms, and America's oldest city is drowning, the Atlantic flooding its brick-paved streets. An uptick in the number of powerful storms, 7 major hurricanes, and Wilma's rump. The Atlantic flooding our neighborhood streets with surging seawater churned up by the storms. 7 major hurricanes and Wilma's rump? Nobody should get lost in statistics or surges of seawater churned up by a storm. The governor is skeptical of climate change. Nobody should get lost in statistics, but what is the plan? The governor is skeptical of climate change. The next generation may survive despite us. In 1975, there was a highly anticipated match race, which means a race between 2 horses. Foolish Pleasure was a 3-year-old colt who had just won the Kentucky Derby, and Ruffian was an undefeated 3-year-old filly. Ruffian. This race is to the fleetest of the fleet, rushing headlong toward the finish line, the one who thunders past on fragile feet. Every time she raced, she would repeat her easy victory, just having fun. The race is to the fleetest of the fleet. She looked like a movie star, ready to greet her fans in her jet black coat with her wind-blown mane, galloping like a gazelle on dainty feet. Everyone wanted to see if she could beat the best of the boys, fight for the lead and win. The crown is for the fleetest of the fleet. Foolish Pleasure and Ruffian would meet, and a startled bird, and the fatal flaw in her genes, that mix of thunderous speed and fragile feet. Then she lay in a dark hole under a sheet, dead to pain's panic and shattered bone. She who had thundered by on flying feet, such grace was hers, the fleetest of the fleet. In black and white. I saw a photograph of a foot in a satin slipper, ribbon wrapping an ankle, curve of a leather sole. Such slippers are hand-stitched by artisans, neither right nor left. Dancers batter them as they batter their own bodies into impossible beauty. I remember my first pair of pointe shoes. the diva glamour of them, and the truth, toes wrapped in lamb's wool, bleeding and bruised. Russian noblemen drank champagne from slippers such as these. The foot in the photograph was at the point of balance. One had to imagine a muscled leg pulling upward into the solar plexus, into the supple spine. One had to think of horses running on tiptoe. The foot was alone. It was the feather without the bird, the fin without the shark. Fragments of Sappho suggesting a body of poetry. One had to imagine the dancer, hair pulled back, thin band of elastic round her waist to guide her partner's fingertips, swan queen, or sugar plum, or fourth girl on the left in a corps de ballet, music flowing through her. Don't tell me about the weaker sex. She would starve herself for her art. It was a photo of a foot in a slipper poised on a marble floor. I only have 2 poems left, and this one is a tribute to 2 of our poetic ancestors, Walt Whitman and Emily Dickinson. Ancestors. As surely as Walt is the ground we walk on, beautiful carpet of grass, dust under our feet, Emily is the sky, fierce as falling stars, granting no wishes, hymnist and heretic, indivisible, jury of one. Keep watch over your borders, lady of the loaded gun. May we never open your book, nor read your poems with their quaint capitals and restless dashes, with their syntax slightly askew too carelessly. Unique soul, vestal in white, exuberant bacchant, you leave us 0 at the bone. Thank you for being such a wonderful audience. This is my last poem, so I hope you enjoy it. Smackdown. Samson is the biggest star of the World Wrestling Federation, its undefeated champ. He enters the arena wearing white trunks, a lion skin draped over his shoulders, his blonde curls shining under the lights. The crowd roars its approval as he strides toward the ring. He quickly dispatches opponents, anonymous in black tights, 4 or more at a time. Tonight, he will fight the Philistine. Delilah is in his corner, tricked out in harem garb. In Delilah, he's met his match. She's caught on candid camera making out with the Philistine in the locker room, in love with his dreadlocks and gaudy colors. Tune in next week to see Samson's revenge. He'll bring down the house.